Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we grow again. It is a fantabulous Friday here in the studio as I record, and I am so grateful to be back with you guys. I have a really fun share for today's episode. I did the second live Q&A on the new social audio app Clubhouse last night, and the room grew bigger. The questions, comments, and shares from other people who came in and came up on stage grew more inspiring. I planned on going about 30 minutes or so. Like last week's was pretty short. And this week there was just so much good conversation happening. It went much longer. So this is a little bit of a longer episode, but definitely a lot of golden nuggets sprinkled in there. So I hope you guys thoroughly enjoy it. And and join us next week. I'm going to be doing these regularly, it looks like. Last week was a test. This week it was, like I said, even bigger and better in some ways, I would say, more engaging. So if it's feeling in the flow, I'm going to continue with it. And you guys can actually go, if you just search my name, Brandon Beecham, on Clubhouse, you'll find me. You can just basically just follow my profile. Make sure you click the little bell to always be notified when I'm on. And that way you'll see when these are happening. But also on goldenkey.gift, we're laying out the calendar each week. For now, it's going to be Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, and you can add it to your calendar by clicking the link there, etc. So I would love to interact with you guys more, and I so appreciate the P-heads who came up on stage for this last episode or last live Q&A. And I will go ahead and cut to it without further ado, because like I said, it went a little longer because it was so fun. So hope to see you guys all there next week, and till Monday, journey well. Love you so much. Who is feeling brave enough to come up on stage? And Jessica stepping up to the mic. Hello, Jessica.
Hi, Brandon.
How are you?
I listened to your podcast for a number of years and took a break.
What? And you took a break? This is not allowed, Jessica.
It must have worked out for her. But then I read, but I feel like I read your book and it's excellent.
Thank you.
So here I am.
Yay.
It's nice to be reconciled with my spiritual cousin.
Oh, exactly. Well, thank you for the support, and I'm so glad that you got something good out of the book. A lot of energy went into it. Karen, who's my partner up here on stage, helped to edit it, as it says at the front there, my partner in time, helping to distill my infinite perspectives. Luckily, she's very concise, where if you've been a podcast listener for a long time, I'm very verbose. And so
no,
not me. So let me ask you, what with the book, was there anything in particular that stood out to you? Maybe a question about something, or an issue that you're having in your own life, or something that you would like to chat about that you read? Anything that you would care to share to sort of open up our conversation?
Sure. I could share how it played out for me kind of this week. I read the book. I know most of the principles in the book. I mean, I guess we're all just remembering them, right? But
That's right.
but I'm kind of waiting. Last week I had a really, really explosively awesome contact with somebody who I would love to be my partner. And so I'm kind of in this space of waiting and seeing. And so I read the book this week, and I have on my wall the title. I think it's the title of 2 of the chapters: Love What Comes and Trust the Mystery. And it's brought me just a lot of like really good feelings, because I know that it could be what I want that happens or something better, and just to trust it, you know? And so those 2 chapters really brought me into a really good headspace or heart space for that.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah. Relationship. It's funny because, as I mentioned, I was just on Colby Rebel's live show, and I raced over from there to this, and we talked about this very topic. Like, what do you do? Someone threw at me, what do you do when you're really wanting a particular relationship to pan out, and it's, you're kind of have this expectation around it, and it hasn't fully manifested, and what do you do to get it to manifest? And as you probably saw in the book, Jessica, I break down all the things that, yeah, as I also say, I can't teach anything that we don't already know. It's just a matter of remembering that which we've forgotten. And when you start to remember, like, oh, there's a lot of factors at play here. I have this expectation of this person. Some people say expectation is the enemy. I don't believe that. I think expectation with a healthy sense of detachment is sort of the combination that's going to work best. I've set expectations many times, and then like, oh, okay, that wasn't for me, and so it didn't pan out. So once we start to really trust the mystery, like you intelligently paste it up right in front of your face, because it's always, there's so much mystery with creation, right? There's so many factors at play, and that are playing into what we're going to see show up in our movie. And I always take great comfort in knowing that what's for me will always be for me. And if it's something that I'm meant to experience and grow from, what I seek is seeking me. And so I have an idea about this person, and like you said, this or something better, and I'm going to do everything I can to follow my excitement, that inner guidance. And no, it may change. I may, a week from now, all of a sudden feel very different about it. I'm like, oh, why was I interested in him again? Or so but it's what we're meant to get out of it can be so many different things, and only one of them may be actually catching the relationship we originally envisioned, right? So it really brings a lot of sense of peace, I feel, when you're like, okay, I can have my idea of what is or isn't or should be, or what I want to manifest, but I also trust that there's so much more at play than what I can see. My higher self can see the chessboard in a way I never could, and it's a dance that, what I'm manifesting is a I talk about it being a soup of experience. That's, what vibrational offering have I made in the past? What is my soul's dharma? What did I do in other lifetimes? All these things are playing into what's going to pop up in my experience next. So my only job here is to do my best to influence it in the way in which I see fit and feels the most alive for me in this moment, subject to change at any time, and with that healthy sense of detachment and relaxing into the knowing that, there's just, if we all can get excited about how much goodness is ahead of us. Like, when you think about it for a moment, that 1 billion Earth years from now, you will be in some new now experiencing existence, and there will be so much experience that you've had between then, now and then. And even then, it's still like eternity is stretched out like an infinite vista in front of you with more to go. It's like there's so much to go and so much in front of us. Like, why are we going to get caught up on any one impulse or moment or, desire?
And, instead putting it into the context of this larger narrative, it makes it, I think, much easier to just, keep it light. And then what's the irony there is, by keeping it light, we actually allow it to more easily manifest and not get so attached to the idea of what it should or shouldn't be, right?
Amen. Yeah, like this is a relationship. This is a person who's been my best friend and in and out of romantic overtures for like 8 years now. So I've detached from him a bunch of times and gone on and done my other things and come back to each other. And what I was looking for when I read the book, which I totally got, was that ability to release again, once again, at another height, release expectations. And the book totally gave me that, because I find that that's the key to everything, is just not expectations. It's a fine line. And maybe you could talk about that, the difference between like intent and the like clingy expectation that will almost push away what you want. I mean, and the book really helped me kind of with that.
I would love to speak to it. And I would also, since there's a bunch of beautiful souls up here on stage, I bet you Erica has a thought on this. Erica, what is your thought on this?
That's so funny, Brandon. Of course I do. Because
I know.
This comes up so much in my work. And Jessica, I think you just said this so perfectly. Like, the expectation is exactly the resistance, like having the expectation of what it's going to be, what it's going to feel like, what it needs to be is exactly what's keeping you from it. And to just be able to like release, like you were saying, let go and just enjoy the experience of whatever it is. Like, know that it's all about the experience. It doesn't have to be a certain way. It just is what it is. And you're learning from it. And to really get the lesson. Like, if you can always ask yourself, what am I learning here? Because then you don't have to experience it again.
Amen.
Yeah, for sure. But that expectation thing, man, in my work, it is the one thing that keeps people from experiencing magic. Because when you expect it to be a certain way and it's not that way, you allow the frustration to take over, and the conscious mind, it just throws poo at everything. That's what it does. Yeah. And when we can just go with the flow and allow it to just ride with that, instead of flailing about in the water thinking that we're drowning, just letting ourselves lay back and know we can float. And it's all going to be okay. We're always okay.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this particular topic, question, situation that each and every one of us is so intimately familiar with?
Hi. I don't know.
Hey, Jillian.
Hi. This is my first time actually coming up and speaking. I usually just sit in the back. I'm kind of new.
Yay.
So, yay.
Welcome, Jillian.
And it's just, I'm so grateful that I found the podcast, and that's how it's helped me so much in through last year and into this year. I'm kind of like shaking and emotional, because like everything you guys are talking about is a situation that I just went through, and a hard lesson that I finally saw. And it was so amazing to like let things go and like go with the flow, like stop resisting. And it was just so beautiful. And even my mom, she's like, oh wow, you just like look so beautiful today. And I was like, well, it's like I feel so good, like this weight has been lifted, because why am I trying and grasping and trying to do things? And when it's just like I just need to let it just flow and just trust. And it's just so beautiful that like everything that like coming in here and just hearing exactly the lesson that I had to learn just being reiterated was like, yes, yes, this was all meant to be. Like reading the book and just listening to you guys, and it was just so beautiful. And I'm just so overcome with joy and happiness. And it's just like so beautiful to me right now. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you
That's
for
beautiful.
sharing. Yes, that's so great. Yeah, it's one of the lessons that I think we all get the chance to learn. You know, I often will say, I'm sure you've heard me say on the podcast before, I believe our reality or our experience or our growth is like a spiral. We circle back on things that we think we've really already gotten for even further and deeper levels of clarification. We're like layers. There's layers of the onion, if you will. And for me, this is one that I've even circled back on recently with someone. You know, I talk about it all the time. The Mystic Manor is such a hub for growth and transformation, whether you want it to be or not. And, you know, I had a great example of this with someone that came here recently and super helpful. You know, this place requires a lot of maintenance, and this person came in and just like, wow, you're so skilled in fixing things, and you're, you know, spending your time so graciously to do so much around here. Okay, maybe you should move in and stay here. And you know, and then I had this expectation and vision of this person. This person is really good at, you know, this type of work, which is definitely not my forte. And it's so needed around here. They did so much. Then they moved in, and all of a sudden they hurt their hands. And the thing they were least interested in on planet Earth was helping to fix anything around here. And I had this great vision of all the things we were going to do to upgrade this place. And, you know, my expectation then spiraled out into me having a moment of, you know, agitation that I'm not proud of. And then, but then I got to, you know, sit with that and say, oh, okay, Brandon, here's where you derailed. This came from, you know, a lot of times we attach it to relationships, romantic relationships, this expectation lesson. And in this case, it came from a totally different angle for me. And it's like, okay, you still have more work to do there, and that's okay. And, you know, every moment's another chance to turn it all around. And, you know, I think of, when Jillian was talking, I was thinking of Abraham Hicks. Talks about this whole learning to, I think it was Jillian that said something about, you know, going with the flow and the current of what's happening. And it's, you know, I love the analogy of, you know, we're in this flowing stream of existence. And when we're sort of swimming upstream against the current, it's miserable, and we're getting beaten against the rocks, and it hurts. And, you know, however, if you just learn to go with it, and it's going to show up, knowing it's going to show up many times different than you expect it to, your expectations. And those times that you are exactly right, congratulations. That feels great and makes it really easy and it's rewarding, and you feel impressed with your ability to manifest, and that's all fine and great. But those times when it doesn't, how gracefully do you walk through the fire of your existence in reality? And when things don't go your way, that's when it really tells the tale about where you're at in your development. So knowing that you're going to get that, so that, you know, as I always say, smooth seas never made for a skilled sailor, so you can become the skilled sailor that you're meant to become. And so, you know, in the person's case that I just used, you know, I had to do a reframe. I had my little outburst, and then I had to reframe. Okay, let go. And whenever you get to that point where you just let go of all those expectations, it's like putting down a ton of bricks, right? Like, oh my gosh, what was I carrying? Okay, I don't need it to show up in that way. This or something better, you know. Okay, I'm going to get the message. I'm going to get the lesson that I'm meant to get from this. And that is when you're really, you know, you're actually the maybe pain or hardship of the experience is actually paying dividends, as opposed to keep beating yourself against the rocks, right?
I love it. I want to also welcome Braxton and Miro to the stage. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for being
Welcome,
here.
welcome.
Yeah, if I want to just continue on the conversation. If Braxton or Miro, if you guys came up and had something. Braxton, you've been here for a while, so if you had something that you wanted to ask to the group, please do.
I honestly just came on because my good friend Bita was here, and I'm happy to listen, and I will chime in accordingly. But great conversation so far. This is all great, great information. So thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Braxton, love seeing you on here. I actually have something to add to what Brandon is saying, and it's so beautiful how life works because it all comes full circle. A lot of these lessons on surrender and just letting go and, you know, going with the flow, I learned through Brandon and just listening to his podcast for a very long time too. But I feel like when I look back on the biggest shifts of my life that were big currents that took me straight to the big thing that I wanted, that I thought was so hard to achieve or hard to arrive at, it was always because the process or the way that, let's call it the wave that took me there, did not even exist at the point at which I wanted to get to that goal. So, for example, and we can use actually Clubhouse as an example of this. If I was seeking some sort of massive business growth or something, last year, I'm sitting there wishing for it and praying for it and thinking, oh man, I don't know how the hell I'm going to get there from here. It's so far away. And I, from my human mind, imagine that X, Y, and Z has to happen in order for me to arrive at this place that I want to be at. Meanwhile, Clubhouse is being built in the background, doesn't even exist yet, and can take me there in one conversation with one person on stage. And my point in saying that is that sometimes we in our human minds can't even begin to conspire or create the path through which what we want to create is going to happen. Sometimes it doesn't even exist at the point at which we're wishing it, and we imagine that it's this long road that's going to get us there. And really, it's like we can't even imagine with our minds what it's going to look like. And Brandon's another really good example of that. I remember years ago, Brandon, when you were living in Orange County and wondering what you should do with your business and what you should do with your podcast, because you were so inspired and recharged by doing your podcast, but you didn't know how it was going to create or cultivate some sort of community that could come to life. I mean, I can't even imagine that you had in mind from the beginning that you'd create this community living home in Venice, which would then become a retreat, which would then become a show, which would then, spiral into this massive community that you've created. So surrendering is one of the biggest gifts I think we've been given when we don't know how to drive the ship, to just remove our hands from the wheel and surrender and let God or universe or the flow of life do its work. That's one of the options we have available to us. So I just wanted to share that.
Beautiful share. Thank you, Rita. Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's back to that what you just were stating, that it's this or something better, right? And if you can just relax into it, you're going to be doing this for a very, very long time. So yeah, might as well get good at it, and not make every moment a nail biter. Like, otherwise, it's just like your nervous system just gets wrecked. And especially if you're really fiery and passionate, like probably everyone in this room, that's particularly when it is challenging if you are just clinging to every expectation, because the universe is just going to wear you down until you stop. And that's just a very painful journey. Like, oh, my nervous system is a wreck again. It should happen this way. It's supposed to do that. It's supposed to do this. And this idea of controlling everything is just a joke. And, I bet you Miro, who's here on stage, I bet you he has something good to add to this, because he just has lots of wisdom in general. Miro, you there? What do you got for us, buddy?
Thanks, Brandon. I'm patiently waiting my turn. So grateful to see you. And thank you, Beta and Soleil, too. Great to see you both here. I actually have a little story to share when it comes to manifesting. And so grateful for you, brother. I feel like that's a manifestation, us sharing the room here again, for the first time. Okay, so what's present for the... So I'm the founder of Manifest X. That's the name of my company. So actually started off as a digital marketing agency. I didn't know what that was calling in, but sometimes these things turn into self-fulfilling prophecies. And so now, I do the spiritual work too, the inner work, and help people manifest sort of their dream lives and balance it out, the energy with the strategy, specifically for coaches and all that good stuff. But this story I want to share with you is very relevant for Beta and Soleil in a room. There was a room, I think one of you hosted, or both of you, I don't know. And it was around, manifesting love or something, or your soulmate or something.
It
do you
was a
remember
singles mixer.
the singles
Remember
mixer?
very well.
Yes, same thing. So, but the reason I said manifesting is because I intentionally, I have a meditation where I was calling it in. I was calling in sort of, a romantic partner. And this is a great one. You're gonna love this. You kind of already know, so I'm just sharing with the rest of the room. And so anyway, so I'm in that room, and there was this moment. I think Soleil said, "Hey, if there's somebody here that sort of interests you, sort of flash your mic." And I was looking at this beautiful queen, flashing my mic. And later on, it turned out she's looking at me at the same time. There was hundreds. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't hundreds, but it was lots of other people in the room. And so what a coincidence, right? That we kind of looked at each other at the same time. We kind of ended up starting to talk and like had a conversation. But then you think, okay, well, it's Clubhouse. Like, how serious can it really get, right? And so, long story short, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., I'm heading out to the airport from Kansas City, going to San Diego. She's coming down from LA, and that's Nicole. And so we're gonna meet up there. And so it's extremely, and I think to your point in terms of expectations, like, it'd be really easy to just say, well, she's going to be the one and the only one, and all of that good stuff. And we had a really good clearing conversation about, like, we don't know. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just wanted to share that, just like intentionally, tuning in and just asking, literally just asking. I think it's one of the most underutilized tools that we all have in our tool belt, asking that force, the universe, God, the super consciousness, to just bring us what it is that we desire, and then going with the flow, like you said, Brandon. It's so key. So whatever you guys want, whether it's dream clients, partnerships, passionate romance, you call it, like, name it, call it, and just act as if it's already done. And that's kind of the magical flow. And I so appreciate what you shared earlier, Brandon, about just trusting it. Geez, I wish I had learned that sooner. But yeah, so those are my 2 cents. I'm gonna hop off here shortly, but it's so great to share space with you guys.
Miro, before you go, you owe me and Vida something. The proposition in that room was, if we get you married off, that you got to give us front row seats at the wedding. So please don't forget the commission. We are Persian. We do collect.
I remember that.
You got it. You're going to be the first to know.
Thank you. And I want to contribute on this too. I think the universe has its own gym where no matter how strong you become at surrendering, you achieve the next level where it becomes even stronger. I've tested this in my life. It's like, no matter how good I become at letting go and saying, fuck it, this was the best, and God, it's up to you now. Like, it just gets harder and harder. And that makes you better and better. It makes you stronger and stronger. I've been tested at every stage. It feels like, Mortal Kombat, where you get to the final round. You never get to the final round in life. It's just constant breakthrough after breakthrough, which makes you become more and more humble. And you realize how vast the universe is and how many possibilities there are. So just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I wanted to actually add on that, if I may. I call it source, and the universe speaks to us very, very, very loudly. And I had something that happened a couple weeks ago. I was playing Monopoly. I downloaded like the Monopoly app on my phone. One of my friends was like, "Hey, let's play Monopoly," and I was like, "Okay, whatever." And I got a random name, a random computer generated name that I play under now, and it's Wise CEO, and then some numbers after it. And I was like, well, that's kind of funny. And I didn't really think much of it. But then 4 days later, my friend Peter reaches out to me, and Peter created his own cryptocurrency, and he's been in the crypto space for a while. And Peter reaches out to me and was like, hey, I'd like to bring you on to be the face of my cryptocurrency. And the cryptocurrency is called Wise Token. And I was like, oh my God, look at the signs that the universe was giving me. I had this random computer generated thing that said Wise CEO. And then 4 days later, I get a call that I'm going to be the face of Wise Token. And I really believe that these are not accidents. I don't believe that there's accidents that happen in this world. I'm an author. I wrote a book a couple of years ago, And something I wrote about, in my book is there's a line that I said, while you were too busy trying to find out how to pay your monthly rent, you missed out on the opportunity to pay off your entire house. So opportunities that are massive, massive, massive are around us everywhere. But if we're not present to seeing them, they'll just fly right past us. And I realize that something as simple as being called Wise CEO on a Monopoly app was actually speaking very, very loudly to me. I wasn't necessarily present to it at the moment, but I realized it was a sign from the universe that I'm going in the right direction.
Love that. Love that, Braxton. I want to I'm still here, so I'm going to add my 2 cents. I can't help it, okay? Braxton, dude, such a great story, and congratulations on that appointment to being the face of that company. I think what you're speaking to here is these omens, these little signals that are like confirmation that we're on the right track. And what I have found just over the last year that's totally blown up my personal development and my business as well is just actually consciously cultivating that knowingness of being on the right track. And that's really, our intuition. So you guys all here know about belief work, how really the world as you experience is it just you pushed out. And so all of the stuff, good or bad, it's just really a projection of our belief system, our perspective. And, when I unlocked some of the sort of inhibiting beliefs about being super spiritual, hearing messages from God, being a healer, being able to read minds or whatever the case, like once I unlocked those beliefs that were telling me that I would be judged, I would be killed, all of these sort of unconscious beliefs, many of them were from ancestors and like generations back from not even my lifetime, but literally these beliefs are stored in my subconscious and in my DNA and all that good stuff. And I learned this through theta healing. Once I released them, I started being able to get messages and have knowings and get these actually audible signs and signals about what's going on, not just in my life right now, but all around me. So basically on demand. So it's kind of like DMs from God is what I call it. So like I can send a direct message and get a direct response. Some of my friends are so quote unquote tapped in to have they're always on, meaning they get constant messages about everything all the time. That would be a little overwhelming for me. So I just have these methods of kind of directly consciously asking for, hey, what does this actually mean? And the truth is, you can know a lot of the things, and you kind of already do, a lot of the things that are on your sort of path, on your sort of what I call the God-given purpose. And when it comes to manifesting and bringing in the abundance in the life that you want, when you kind of align your conscious goal setting and the stuff that you really, really want with kind of your God-given purpose, then stuff kind of just flows easier, because otherwise it's kind of what Brennan was describing before, kind of going against the grain, going, swimming upstream. And that's where surrender comes in too. It's like, hey, this is happening for me. I'm on a path. And it's kind of happening regardless, but then being in the flow of it and then intentionally creating towards it. I started doing certain types of prayers and meditations that helped. Just literally just being a vessel, right? It's like, hey, God put me, give me the wisdom to do what you've put me on this earth to do, to, in a way that pleases you, to serve the people I'm meant to serve. And that's become my daily sort of starting my day. I'm just giving it up to God as the CEO from the start and see where we're going. It's been really magical to start living life that way as opposed to trying to make it happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love what you said. Instead of trying to make it happen, I'm glad you used that terminology because, as Yoda says, there is no try, it's do or do not, and that's so true. And I always think about some stuff, and when I have friends, I don't let my friends get away with canceling plans on me, ever. And it's like I have a 2-strike policy, and if someone ever says, oh my God, something came up, I said, look, if I were the president of the United States and you had the opportunity to sit down with the President of the United States and share, what your vision for the world would be, is there any chance that something would come up, or would you make sure that you're here? And they're like, no, I'd make sure that I'm here. Okay, my invitation to you is to treat me. I'll treat you like you're the most important person on the entire world. And I'll go leaps and bounds to make sure that I follow through with you. And my request is you do the same, right? So, and there is no try when it comes to honoring our word with ourselves and in the other people around us. Everything else that happens in between is just testing how committed we are, and how like I think of it all the time, like Bob Marley. The story I use all the time is from Bob Marley. Like, he was shot 3 times the night before a concert, and he's on the operating table screaming at the doctor saying, you got to stitch me up, you got to stitch me up, I have a concert tomorrow. And the doctor says, you're going to be okay, and I'll stitch you up and everything, but you got to rest. And he said, no, I have a concert, I'm going to go. And he's like, I don't recommend that, but I can't tell you what to do. The next night he goes out to a concert and delivers the performance of a lifetime. And after the concert, someone interviewed him, said, you were just shot, what keeps you going? He said, the people out there making the world a worse place to live are not taking a day off. Why should I? Right? So that I really have like decided to take steps to live my life in that direction. I'm a human being. I fail every single day. I falter every single day. Every single day I don't follow through with something. And every single day it's a step at really living and understanding what it means to follow through 100% in excellence with the things I set out to do, and understanding anything that comes in between me and what I set out to do is just testing how bad I want it.
Boom. Wow, Braxton. Wow.
Love that.
What an activation.
I love that. Braxton, you're so I did a training with Braxton, so I know exactly where he's coming from when he says that, your word is really above all else what you can offer to somebody. So yeah, I love that. I just wanted to reset the room. I see a lot of new people, and this is getting to be better and better of a conversation. So I just want everyone to be looped in. We're talking about the difference between our spiritual discernment between when we're swimming upstream and when we're swimming downstream, when to let go of the handle and know that some force of nature is carrying us through to get us to where we want to go, versus when to push on the gas ourselves and muscle through it to where we want to get to. I also wanted to present something else. Brandon, you didn't mention this earlier, but the topic did come up. Brandon's got an amazing new book that he's written. It just was released in January of this year. And it's called The Golden Key. And it is an incredible book. He's offering it on his website. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about all the different ways that you can access the book. But it's an amazing book. I highly recommend it to everybody. And it's got a lot of these guidances that we all need in our lives to kind of navigate the waters when we're learning when to surrender and how to become one with spirit, I would say. So, Brandon.
Awesome. Thank you, Rita. Yeah, I'll real quick, everyone. What she's talking about is the Golden Key, which I am gifting to the world. And you can go to goldenkey.gift to download the book. If you use the code POSITIVEHEAD, which is the name of my podcast, you can actually download the book, the audio or ebook, for free. And that's sort of what inspired us to originally set up this room, the keys to abundance and manifestation. And like I talk about in the book, it's, a lot of times people think with abundance, they think in terms of monetary wealth, and certainly that is a form of abundance, but there's so many forms of abundance. And in that book, I don't really talk so much about, I say right at the top, if you're trying to figure out how to manifest or invest your money in cryptocurrency or switch to Geico and save $300, whatever. This isn't the book. It's about the deep level of abundance. What is the root of all abundance? And I believe that is tapping into the truth of who and what you are. You are one with the source consciousness that creates and animates all things. And that's why with what some of these people have shared, when you want to understand, how do I create abundance? Yeah, sure, monetary is great. What about more time? What about relationships, which we've been talking about, that are fulfilling relationships, more wisdom, more, there's so much. When you really drop into the knowing and the understanding that you are one with all of the abundance of all kinds that has ever existed throughout all time, space, this universe, beyond the physical. Literally, it's you and you are it. It's so empowering. And that's really what I always want to point people back to, is let's get to the root and the heart of what's going on here. And the truth of it is you are it. It is you. That which you seek is seeking you. And how do we get there? It's knowing it is one thing, applying these perspectives to actually unlock the abundance is a whole nother thing. And that's really what we're talking a lot about in this room. And one of the things that was said was, finding that thing that's so fulfilling. Gandhi said it really well. He said, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. So if you're looking for, how do I unlock what's my path, and that relationship, that, that career, whatever it is. And the reason I believe his statement holds true, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others, because there are no others. You're always doing it to yourself. So if you understand, your whole reality is literally a feedback loop reflecting you back to you. Everywhere you go, you're there waiting for yourself. When you get that, everywhere you go, you're there waiting for yourself. What is this telling me about myself, this situation, this expectation that I have that was not met? And then I flailed like a child throwing a tantrum on the floor, like, I've done many times in my life. Okay, now am I going to beat myself up for having fallen off the wagon, or am I going to now reassess and love myself where I'm at and learn from it? And if you learn from it, was it really a failure? No, you actually were growing in that moment. And as you grow and accept yourself where you're at and trust the mystery of what's unfolding in your life, it's like it becomes, you can really relax into the unfolding of what's for you. And the reality is there's so much good waiting for each and every one of us to manifest. It's, people talk a lot about the law of attraction, and a guy that I had on my podcast a while back, Derek Rydall, talks about in terms of the law of emergence. And I love that. And I always reference it because it's so powerful, this idea of the law of emergence. He equates it to the acorn. Inside that tiny acorn, there's a full-on oak tree. However, if you take that acorn and you pluck it from the ground, you see it on the ground, and little boy puts it in his pocket and then on his shelf in his bedroom, it never reaches its full potential. For it to become the acorn, the right water, the right soil, the right conditions need to be created in order for the acorn to bloom into this incredible, epic oak tree that makes the acorn look like, wow. In comparison, it's like pretty humble, right? And so that is your destiny and my destiny and everyone's destiny. So no one is better than anyone. I don't care if you've got 100,000 followers on Clubhouse or one follower on Clubhouse or any of those silly ideas about, stack ranking that we get caught up in our society. We all are that oak tree in potential. And this learning how to gracefully walk through the fire of our life and our experience is the path to creating the right conditions for that oak tree to emerge.
Brandon, I'm on your website right now. I was just about to order your book, and I love that it's $11.11. Like, there's no accident. I love that. So something that struck me on the line of abundance, I always say it like this. We can invest into resources, like you said, cryptocurrencies or stock markets or whatever. That's where a lot of people do, because it's what earns them tangible money on the surface. I always find the best investment comes investing into my network, right? Investing into myself, investing into my communication skills, investing into my knowledge, because that's something that will stay forever. And I say it like this, like when I invest in myself, I'm telling myself that I'm worth it. And I trust myself to create value. If I can't invest money into myself, how do I expect someone else to see my value? If I can't invest time for myself, how do I expect someone to take time for me? When I tell myself that I'm worth it, the universe will respond. And a couple of years ago, I was at Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within, and I wanted to take his whole course. It was like 20 grand, and I was like 27, which is a shit ton of money for a 27-year-old. At least the 27-year-old me. And I had like $20,100 in my bank account, and I was like, I'm gonna pay for it. I'm gonna do the whole thing. And my mom freaked out. She's like, Braxton, why would you do such a thing? Why would you spend that much money? That's a lot of money. And I said, Mom, because I want to learn from people who don't think it's a lot of money.
Yes.
I love that, Brandon. I'm going to take this one. I love that. And Braxton, you're absolutely going to love the book, The Golden Key. And actually it is 11/11, but like Brandon said, he's gifting the book. So if you use the code Positive Head when you go to checkout, you get it for free. And part of the reason why Brandon is doing this is actually exactly because of what you're talking about, because he's giving the book away for free and inviting people afterwards to play this abundance manifestation golden game, in which you choose the monetary contribution that you want to give. And so it's exactly what you're talking about, where we wanted to create an opportunity to allow people to have that feeling that you had when you decided to pay this, seemingly exorbitant amount to the Tony Robinson Tony Robinson thing to join. It's the same idea. It's like giving people that opportunity of, I don't have to pay anything. I already got the book. I already got the wisdom. I already read it. You can leave it at that if you want. But if you want, and if you choose, and if you want to demonstrate to the universe, hey, I know how worth it I am, I know how much I deserve, then you can flow a monetary contribution into this game with the intention, setting the intention that contribution is planting a seed for the abundance that you want to manifest and sprout in your life. And then once you make the contribution, then we help guide you through this 88 days of different manifestation exercises and help you to continue to stay in that feeling, because there's the planting the seed, and then like Brandon's talking about with the oak tree, there's planting the seed of the acorn, but then how do you water it? How do you give it sun? How do you continue to grow and allow this to sprout into the greater abundance in whatever form that it might be, with a healthy sense of detachment of what form it might be, and being open and looking to the universe for signs of where it's flowing back to you. So thank you, Braxton, for sharing that story.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to add real quick, Mira, and then I'll give you the mic. I love what you said about the Tony Robbins, to your mom. I want to tap into people who actually don't think that's a lot of money. And there's a great quote that I love to use referencing this. It's when you come holding your bag of sugar to be filled, it will be examined to see how large it is. Meaning, you step up to the universe and you say, here's my bag. I think a Halloween trick or treat, like the kid with the giant bag is smart. Like, oh, he's got a lot to fill. Here, let's fill it up. Let's give him more. And so it's all funny money. It's all energy. Like $1 is very, very similar to $1 million. I mean, yes, there's some differences to navigate to these two different places, but essentially it's different degrees of the same energy. And so when you start telling a different story, coming with a bigger bag, the universe responds to that. Oh, okay. Braxton is telling the story energetically that 20,000 is something that he can replace easily. And I bet, without knowing anything about your story, that's been reflected in your experience thereafter. Whereas if you had held on to that 20,000, in a way that was like fearful, and instead of, like the name says, currency, it's meant to flow, right? Like I'm going to hoard it. That actually creates the stifling of energy. And it doesn't mean to
get rid of it in a stupid way. And if it's something that you really align with, and that you're supporting, as you talked about earlier, your community in a way, hey, I love what Tony Robbins is doing, I want to support that energetically. Like, if it aligns with you and you believe in it, and you believe that you are infinitely abundant and you can tap into infinite abundance, then it becomes just a fun game of learning how to play with turning on the spigot of this resource, these resources that are your birthright.
I do some abundance coaching and some financial coaching with some friends. I'm in the cryptocurrency world, so a lot of times people are hesitant to get into cryptocurrency because it's so up, down, left, right, and sideways. And some people are scary, like, oh my God, what if I lose my money? Like, just like you said, if I know for certain that even if I lose it all, I can gain it back tomorrow, did I really actually lose it? No, I gained a life experience. But what I say all the time is I compare someone's relationship with money. I compare it, like, most people, like the average person that's that's afraid to take risks and afraid to take steps forward, their relationship with money is very similar to a 9th grade boy who is obsessed with the 11th grade girl, and he's afraid to ask her out on a date, but is just like so obsessed with his friends, like, oh my God, I just need to be with her. I need to be with her. I love her so much. And then, he finally, talks to that girl and she wants nothing to do with him and friend zones him on a romantic level. I'm like, that's most people's relationship with money. They hoard it and hold on to it and are afraid to use it as a resource. And forever they're, money doesn't want to hang out with them, just like the 11th grade girl doesn't want to hang out with the clingy, needy 9th grade boy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. It is currency. It is meant to flow in the right conditions. And, that's sort of the way I envision it is like, I want to use it. I say to the universe, source, higher self, God, whatever you're going to call it, make me an instrument of peace. Allow these resources to flow through me, and I'll take plenty, not more than I need. I certainly want to enjoy my life. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to have nice things, but not in an unhealthy way, in a balanced way. And then just become the cup that overflows to all those around me, because truly, what is more rewarding than being able to, provide? And, I think of it in terms of, I celebrated Christmas in the South where I grew up, and it's a big deal. And so it's like, as I got old enough to actually go from only receiving gifts to giving them, it's like, wow, this is even maybe more enjoyable to share, abundance and share resources with other people. And we've got quite a few people here on stage, actually, that I appreciate stepping up. I know, Miro, you took your mic off earlier, and Jorge just took his off. We got Matt and Shay. So whoever feels inspired to share, now would be a good time.
Yeah,
It's
we all
Matt.
do. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey guys, I just so enjoy listening to the conversation. I'm trying to figure out if I'm the acorn or I'm the kid with the bag. I know I'm not the 9th grader, which I'm really clear about. So I am curious to hear your thoughts on just manifestation techniques. Just by quick way of background, I wrote a book last year, and Brandon, congratulations on yours, called Zisms. And it was just something I've always wanted to do. I was running a nonprofit for 15 years, and things converged right with COVID, like a lot of people. And so the book came out right then. The nonprofit has been sidelined ever since. And I had a major coincidence happen, which is too much of a digression, but really had me lean in and start a podcast, which is called Insights to Live By, which is the subtitle of my book. So as things keep progressing, in terms of following the current, having only planned on just doing the book and continuing my work with my life's work, really with the nonprofit, I just turned around and I'm starting to go with the flow. And the past few months, I've just been leaning all in and developing courses and a community and things. I'm really just about to launch a free video series, all of it. And I'm now like emerging, kind of looking at this just open world of, and just trying to learn about Clubhouse, for example. There's like everything that can be done. And so what I really would love to do is just step back and come at it from a manifestation standpoint. And I have set an intention to personally enrich the happiness of at least 100 million people by 2025. And that was not, I did say happiness on purpose. So I actually just trademarked happiness as part of what I'm doing. So I was just wondering, just from a, there's a lot of people out there with this kind of stuff, mindset and, on and on. My chapter 11, my book is 1111, Brandon, by the way. And I just wonder if any of you guys have manifestation techniques that you think apply, that maybe that's where I should be putting my focus right now. And instead of just, I think I'm the acorn. I'm pretty sure. I've just decided.
I got a manifestation technique that has worked extremely well. Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge, and I'll be lazy here because I know a lot of others have value to share. So in 2018, I transitioned from one business into a new business, and my wife was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's, and she was working a very stressful environment where she was working an 8-hour shift, and 15 minutes before the 8 hours, they would say, "Hey, Lucia, you got to stay for another 8 hours." And there was nothing she could do about it. And we were planning on getting pregnant at the time. So with the autoimmune and the stress, I'm like, this is a really bad situation. Like, I need to retire her. Long story short is I grabbed a notebook. In the back of that notebook, I wrote down a couple goals, and one of them was to be able to make $400,000 of net income. My wife was a law enforcement officer, so she was making 6 figures. So I was like, I need to add another 6 figures. So I wrote down 5 goals, and one included to make $400K of net income with this brand new business. And what I did is every morning I would read basically this goal as if it already happened. So with the intention of like, all of my goals already happened, time just hasn't caught up, and truly believing that. And then I would actually go through a creative visualization of what our life was like, having, being pregnant, having a baby, having already created this, what it felt like to experience this and wake up and the money's in a bank account and all that financial, abundance being present. So just creative visualization. But the biggest thing was involving my emotions as if it already happened.
Are you talking about like an identity shift?
Yes. As if basically placing myself in that identity as if it already happened.
Before we continue on with today's episode, I'd like to take a quick moment to tell you about our sponsor, NOOM. NOOM is a unique, habit-changing solution that helps users learn to develop a new relationship with food. And it's not a diet. No food is considered good or bad. As we talk about on this show all the time, it's all about proper balance and having good habits. And Noom just teaches you how to look within your own mind and make better decisions for yourself. Sounds familiar, right? It's based in psychology, eating better to feel better. It focuses on the story that we tell around food and how to feel good about our choices. And they make it all super easy to do with a minimal commitment of only 10 minutes a day, which is essential for someone like me with so much on my plate, pun intended. So if you guys would like to try out the cognitive behavioral approach to losing weight that has led to 80% of Noomers finishing the program and 60% sticking to their goals for at least 1 year, head over to noom.com/positivehead to start your trial today. That's spelled NOOM.com/positivehead. I mean, what do you have to lose except outdated habits and perhaps a few extra pounds by signing up for the trial? Once again, that's NOOM.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Thank you, Jorge.
Miro, you have something to add to this? I know you.
Yeah, I actually have a question for you, Brandon, because specifically I know I'm called to write a book as well. And I'm kind of already doing it, I guess. But I'd love to know, because what I appreciate about you, Brandon, you're super freaking tapped in, right? But you're also really business savvy and you get results. And I'm not saying these are opposing forces. I'm just curious, how do you kind of allow the sort of channeling to happen and the intuition and following sort of the flow, and then also having kind of like certain, strategic moves that you're making in the whole process. And so really how to conceive sort of both parts of that. I would love to know your insight, because I'm writing something, it's called Generational Worth. And I think it's my God-given book. It's just kind of coming through me. And I want to get it sort of quote unquote right. So I'm noticing myself wanting to get it right, but I love your insight on this.
Yeah, happy to speak to that. A lot of people have this idea, especially in the sort of transformational community, that, money is evil and it's this bad thing in business. Anyone who is savvy at business must be stepping on people's necks to get there. And luckily, I believe this is shifting. We're starting to realize, I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, you can't be poor enough to help poor people. You can't be sick enough to help sick people. And once you start to realize, like, once again, I just really tap into this remembering as we come back together, unifying and remembering that I am literally, it's kind of like Jorge was talking about. I've gotten pretty good at tapping into the feeling, not just thinking, but feeling like, oh, wow, this is actually, I built this place. I have amnesia to the fact that I helped to design what a tree is and, all the narrative of what's happening on planet Earth. But I'm one. It's all one. It's all an extension of me. So at some level, it is me. And I am it. So when you really start feeling that, not just in theory, this idea, it's all one. It's like it's coming from a place of like, I'm really feeling the truth of that statement and that perspective, and therefore, how could I not be abundance? Look at the abundance that exists to create planet Earth, and then go out to the next planet over, and then beyond that, and then start talking about other universes, other galaxies, other not the non-physical. And I'm one with the abundant consciousness, right, that created all of it. That's how abundant I am. I'm so abundant, it's like laughable. And how much of that am I now going to let through? It's literally like opening the valve. And so I think a big part of it is just changing the story around. It's like, money is not evil. Everything is a tool. Everything is good or bad is sort of a judgment. It's like, you've never seen a work of art without shadow in it, right? So is something quote unquote bad really bad, or is it happening in divine order, completely in alignment with the souls who sort of architected it? and behind all that is an untouchable infinite being that really is just playing a game, experiencing herself throughout eternity. And so that's what's really going on. I am all abundance. To hate money makes no sense, or to judge it as not being spiritual is a joke, because everything is spiritual. It's all spiritual business. Everything that's going down is spiritual business, soul contracts. There's never been a victim in all of eternity. It's all, I am it, it is me. So once you start really feeling that, then it becomes, okay, I'm going to I want to call in some of this resource called, these pieces of paper that we've assigned value to, that we call money, that really is just energy. I want some of that energy in my life. And that which I seek is seeking me. Now I open myself up to the possibility. I'm no longer telling a story that pushes it away from me. I'm telling a story that I'm just open, and and with a healthy sense of detachment, because I don't need it to show up in order to be complete or fulfilled, or I don't need more zeros in my bank account to be worthy. I'm worthy by virtue of what I am at my core, right? Whether I'm on the friend's couch or years later running an Inc. 500 fastest growing private company, I was the same value in both those scenarios a few years apart, right? And so I just remembered this truth, and then it becomes a fun game of just tapping into like, okay, I want to start playing with this more monetary currency. Okay, great. That's one form of abundance that is an extension of me that I want. All right, universe. In my case, I'll give one example and then pass the mic to someone else. I launched a business. I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole life. I went through a hardship with that business, that quote unquote failure, which really isn't a failure, just a learning, right? You either win or you learn. And I had hardly any money left, $20 in my bank account on my friend's couch. But I remembered this information and knew that everything that had happened up to that point had happened for me. And I said, okay, now I want to call in more financial abundance. I had no idea what form that would come in. I was just open and was telling the right story around it. And next thing I know, a series of synchronicities leads me to meet someone who brings up, what they do for a living. And then I start looking into it. And then I start working in that space. I see a huge hole in the model that's being used. I, set out to fill that hole. Next thing you know, my company's doing $10 million a year. And so it was really just being open and not overly attached to any particular vision around what, in this case, it was in the travel industry. I had no interest in being in the travel industry per se. I had interest in calling in more financial abundance. And so the universe could do nothing except for react to the vibration that I was offering. And so that really becomes, it's sort of like this playful game of cat and mouse where you set the intention of what you wanted at your core, and then just, it's not if but when. And I don't need it to happen tomorrow. I'm completely as valuable and worthy right now as I will be if I had $1 billion. And then you've sort of got it framed in the right way. You're approaching it energetically where, it's like whenever someone's trying, it's look at human psychology. It's like whenever someone is trying too hard with the girl or the guy or whatever, it's like, it pushes you off, pushes them away energetically. When you don't need it, you allow it to come to you much. So it's really understanding how this energy flow works with all relationships, with money, with people, with everything. You don't ever need to chase anything too hard because you are already so powerful and so divine. So just moving and getting into that space. That's my very short story long answer for you, Miro. It's just like getting the right narrative, going around it, and then just cure it with that childlike wonder. Lest you become like a child, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. Hey, I'm going to playfully just turn over rocks and say, I know it's coming, and I'm just going to playfully, explore until it lands right in front of me and it's super obvious.
Powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can I ask you like a follow-up question, just to be like something super tangible? I definitely felt the abundant sort of activation of remembering everything you just said, being one with universe and everything. So in terms of publishing a book, which you've now accomplished clearly, I just went to goldenkey.gift and I just went for it. It was so great. So I'm very excited to go through the audio version, and thank you so much for gifting it too. I love that. And I guess my question is, so for example, being a published author is like an identity, right? Like, would you, in terms of, I guess, making it happen faster, right? Would you just kind of claim it, own it, like it's already done? Like, hey, I'm a published author and I'm a best-selling New York Times author, and like that's who I am now. I'm just kind of calling it in from that place. Or like, what was your process around creating the book specifically? Because I'm selfishly interested in doing that.
This is a great question, and one that brought great lessons in my own experience. Karen's probably there laughing, knowing where this is going. So I self-published because I wanted to do this unique approach of gifting it to people and then sharing the abundance that is created around the book and through goldenkey.gift, with people. And so I'm approaching it in a very unconventional manner. So like, I didn't even reach out to any publishing houses or anything, which I imagine I could have gotten some support there, but just didn't quite make sense based off of my approach with the book. So then what did I do next? I started in typical fashion of someone who wants to accomplish a lot and works hard, and maybe more than the average person, takes on a lot. And so I set up these false timelines of when it needed to come out. And, what was it originally, Karen? January 5th.
January 5th.
January 5th. The
not
book's coming
come
out,
out.
everyone. Hey, all the podcast listeners, all 500,000 people a month. The book's coming out January 5th. January 3rd rolls around. Not even close with this website and the gifting thing and the challenges and all the stress that it then created around it, for me. And then I told them, okay, it's January. What was it, 2nd, Karen?
Yeah, and then what does this crazy dude do? We're nowhere near on January 3rd, and he goes, "Sorry guys, I was overly optimistic. It'll be out January 18th." And I said, "What? Why? We're gonna reset the deadline. Why'd you make us still short on time?"
So guess what we said the 3rd time? Hey guys, I got to tell you again, I was wrong about the release date. Guess when it's getting released? In divine timing, exactly when it's meant to, not a moment sooner. And I had, of course, had the privilege of being able to do that because I wasn't dealing with the publishing house and a lot of other pieces of the puzzle that sometimes those hard stops have to be in place. In some cases it has to be that way, but it really taught me a great thing, Miro, which is like, I don't need to, I made it less enjoyable by the expectations that I had around it. Right. Same thing with my band years and years and years ago. I remember when we started out, man, we had more fun and creativity than I could ever hope for. Then we started, our bass player's brother was in No Doubt. They had just had the biggest song on the planet 2 years earlier, played on the FM dial when that was still a thing, more than any other song. Every band, all of these bands around us are just going huge. Oh, now we have to make it. All of a sudden it went from being this fun, enjoyable, creative process to we've got to be this thing. And so, what I would recommend is the more you can relax with the ideas of who and what. If you are choosing to write a book, you're an author now, right? Do you need it to be? Will it be a New York Times bestseller? Maybe. Will it? Maybe not. Either way, you're still Miro. You're still as valuable and worthy. So that would be my best piece of advice: is don't put a lot of once you put a lot of expectation and energy and pressure on yourself around it, you start killing the magic, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing is you are a success just by virtue of being bold enough to do something as intensive as writing a book. So yeah, that's hopefully that answers your question.
Brandon, I'll actually echo what you said, and I acknowledge you for pushing it back and taking the time, because an excellence person gets to have an excellence release of the book. And the mistake that I made is I had a hard publication date of September 15th, 2019, and I rushed it. And we were doing the final edits, and I was in a hurry to get things out. Had I pushed it back another month, this probably would not have happened. But because I was rushed it, because I was attached to the September 15th release date, I sent the copy to my editor, and then the editor edited it and sent it back and said, "Hey, how does this look?" I didn't read the edited copy, and I said, "Looks great." And the editor, turns out, sent the copy that I sent to him right back to me. And they sent the unedited copy to the publisher. And so the book that my friends got that bought it in the first month, I did change this up, but they got 41 grammatical errors on 99 pages, which that's like, a grammatical error every other page. And it was really, really tough. And it was a result of me rushing, trying to do something that I was attached to doing. And what you said, when will it be released in divine timing? That's amazing. And I acknowledge you for that, because, I made the mistake the first time, and the embarrassment of having, people send me pictures, like literally for 2 months straight. Hey, found an error. Hey, found an error. I had a friend send me my book back, not like being nasty or condescending, but he sent me my book to my house with every single highlighted error in the entire book sent right back to me, because he wanted to help me, edit it for the future. But, it was kind of embarrassing on my part. So, someone said to me one time, being in a hurry screams there's not enough. And I was in a hurry in that moment, and therefore, I was living in scarcity.
Wow, thank you both so much, Braxton and Brennan, for sharing that. I fully received the lesson here. Thank you.
Hey, Miro, I just want to chime in on that real fast too. Have you started writing yet? Do you have your concept? Do you have it all framed out to a degree, or you just have it in your head? And just where are you with it?
Yeah, I started a book writing challenge, like a 30-day challenge, so I got clear on like a lot of the bones, and the main thing is I have a framework, really, the generational worth TM. So that's what it's about.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's just get into action. So you're already there. You already have your momentum. I mean, I did set a hard deadline for myself. I found it really hard to, like, when do you stop? When do you call it a day on writing the book? And I set leap day last year, and I got the ebook out, and then it was like 3 weeks later. Then I had to go back to the ebook and update it to the paperback that came out those several weeks later. And it's like, it's hard, when do you make the call? But I do believe in, like, a hard deadline when possible, because it forces you to a degree to get it done. And look, if you get to the deadline and you're like, it's just not ready, then it's not ready. But I think the goal is to, nothing like a deadline to make something happen, and, keep yourself into action. It's just what worked for me.
I see where you're coming from, Matt. And I think, I think there's a balance here, because there's definitely stress that's induced. Like I launched this retreat, perfect example, right? Like, this is the lesson that I just reheard again through the stories of Braxton and Brandon. I launched this retreat, and it's magical. It's in Tulum, Mexico. It's like a total dream, living in a freaking palace. I don't want to go into the detail. It's absolutely amazing. And for like the last 3 months, I was kind of a shitty human being for a lot of people, until I hit this quote unquote deadline in order to, like, create the funds. It was like 20 grand to reserve this place and everything. So all of that was absolutely not necessary. Like, the suffering in the process was totally optional, because I've put that additional pressure on myself. And I think so deadlines themselves, like, they've probably helped me up until now to create the life experience that I've been having up until now. And I'm feeling that there's a new way of being, where it's like, hey, I have this intention, maybe on this date, I'm going to see how far I got, and then reevaluate, like, where it's way less pressure about, like, having to have things in a certain way, but having an intent. And I think the intent, high levels of intention with really low levels of attachment, gives us kind of the breathing room to continually make progress, without kind of killing the magic, like Brendan was saying earlier. Because life gets to be really, really fun when we're staying in these flow states. And sometimes having, quote unquote, a deadline or like time boundaries helps us get into a flow state, because we know something is going to end. And so I'm finding, like, as I'm saying this, I'm trying to find, maybe for many of us here, our own flow in that process. And I think from conditioning, I think a lot of us are addicted to stress as a way of motivation. I'm not choosing to have that life experience anymore. So I'm looking really for new ways to find motivation within myself, without having to, have a bunch of fear and, like, all that stuff in my system as well. So, like, yeah, hopefully that makes sense, Matt. And thank you so much, everybody, for your input.
Yeah, good luck with it.
And Matt, I want to hop in here for a minute, if you guys don't mind. So Matt and I know each other.
Oh, hey,
hey. And we do have the last name, and we're pretty darn sure we're cousins at this point, but there is a missing link somewhere. But anyway, I hopped in this room because I'm a digital marketer. I do mostly web development, but I'm actually in the process of launching a new business. So it's not ready for launch yet, which revolves all around this. Because actually the other side of my family, not with Matt, so coincidentally, Matt and I are here together. My grandmother actually was a tarot reader. She practiced astrology and all kinds of fun metaphysical mystic stuff that my oldest daughter's getting into now. And it's a space that I've always been drawn to and interested in, and practice some things myself on a really low level. So while I've been sitting here listening, like Matt, what you were saying, and then I know I heard this reiterated a few times, but it sounded to me very much like the disconnect that happens with visualization. Knowing, like perhaps having that driving energy in you, or vision of sorts, but not really able to, translate that into things starting to kind of unfold. And Miro, by the way, what you said about choosing not to be stressed out about it, like personally, that works for me. So I totally concur. It's like the more relaxed I am, the more, I'm like in flow, and things are unfolding quite nicely. But to that end, about bringing up visualization, I invited a friend in the room. So I don't know if he wants to raise his hand to say anything to it, but he has some like really great visualization techniques, and actually has like a really interesting course out now. So Greg, if you're listening to me, raise your hand if you feel like speaking.
Brandon, I've got a question for you from the audience. It's an anonymous question. Do you mind if I ask?
Please.
So somebody down in the audience is asking on the topic that you were just discussing earlier about manifestation. She's asking if it's possible to manifest for others when it comes from a place of positive or good intent, because she has had an experience where her cousin had a bad accident and is now wheelchair bound, and she's been working on manifesting his well-being. So what does that look like, if it even exists?
That is getting into a very interesting topic of conversation. And I don't claim to have all the answers, but I always have strong perspectives and beliefs and ideas around these sorts of things. And the way I view reality is, and let me add to that as well. And what's interesting is when I apply, a lot of times what I've done for 25 years, and that's what I kind of lay out in Golden Key as well, is, hey, I have 25 years of deep exploration of this stuff. And, I think what results you get speak the loudest. And one of the things that I think is really interesting to start playing with, this idea that you are in your own private universe, your YoUniverse, and everyone is a prop in your movie, reflecting some part of your consciousness back to you, right? And so that's how I approach everything in my world. So the cousin in this case is an extension of you, reflecting you back to you, and they're a prop in your movie, and vice versa. By the way, they're in there. It's like, if you can imagine. I saw a diagram one time that really depicted this visually well. It was like a twisting toroidal, like if you can imagine a graph that was that is sort of shaped like a cone and extending infinitely in each direction, and it has nodes, points all the way on it. And with this particular diagram, the quantum physicist that had posted it on their social media said, see each of these points on this infinite structure. If you go zoom into any of them, it's the center of the entire thing. So everything's happening around it. And that's how I view us. We're nodes of consciousness, chips off the block of source, so to speak. And yet I'm, as the node of this particular avatar, I am the center of my own universe, right? And everything is reflecting me back to me, and vice versa. I represent an extension of your consciousness in this moment, dressed up and sounding like this, that's reflecting you back to you. So to frame, first off, that perspective is one that I apply to every situation. And then you take this particular, this challenged situation, which, your cousin, and this very challenging thing to deal with. And you start thinking of the idea of, okay, well, there's all sorts of timelines. There's all sorts of, from this moment forward, there's many ways that that things can manifest and show up. I say it a lot of times as like, someone can play, everything's neutral by design, and based off of the way I approach it depends how it can show up next. So, if there's a great story of and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but the story holds. I really like the story regardless. And it was that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, back when they were together, this is 10 plus years ago, they were close to divorce at that time. She wasn't eating. She wasn't, she was anorexic. It was going south quickly. And he started only holding the vision, supposedly in the story, of her healthy again, of her happy again, bringing her flowers, only focusing on what he wanted to see from her, and giving no energy to the other things. And all of a sudden she started miraculously bouncing back and gaining weight, and the relationship improved. And so you can play, this is a great example of something that you can play with. If you have a challenge, for example, let's say someone that in your family or that you work with, and it's always the same interaction, practice this by holding a vision of this highest version of themselves, seeing and feeling what it would be like for them to actually interact with you differently. And it gets really interesting, because all of a sudden that a-hole from work is being nice to you, and you're like, whoa, hold on, what just happened? Did I actually change them? Well, what I would say you did is you changed you literally, with your vibration, I believe with our vibration, we step into potential timelines all the time. So imagine if there's all these versions of you from this moment forward, including different versions of your cousin, different versions of the coworker, and you actually step into different timelines with your vibrational offering. So when you say, can you fix them? What I think you can do is shift what timeline you're in, so you actually step into one where the best possible outcome for that situation is what is happening in that reality. And I know this gets pretty out there to some people's perspective to start playing with some of these more heady concepts. But, like I always say, when I apply these things for myself, results are pretty phenomenal. And a great way to try it on a small scale is with someone that you have a lot of tension or challenge with. Start holding a vision of them being very different. Or maybe you saw them be nice once. Only ping on that. Think about that. Give energy to that. And I truly believe you step into a different timeline where they're slightly altered and they're appearing as a prop in your movie in a different way. So that's my long-winded answer to, yes, I believe you can change the situation by changing yourself.
And I just want to jump in here, and I want to add to this briefly, because I think it's important to touch on, the idea of what you're asking specifically is, or the person in the audience is specifically asking about, physical recovery. And that can be something that's really challenging to wade through and work with. And so I think something that's important to remember as well is coming back to the beginning of our conversation with, not holding, trying to let go of expectations of what recovery looks like. So it's, yes, the answer is yes, you absolutely can manifest recovery for your cousin, because as Brandon explained, they're not separate from you. They are a piece of you. And so just like you can manifest recovery for yourself, you can manifest it for them. But it's important to hold a healthy sense of detachment to what that recovery looks like. And rather than, always specifically asking for them to walk again, just for them to walk again, thinking about, well, beyond that, what do you really want for them? You want them to walk again because they were happy and well adjusted and had so much abundance in their life before they had this accident. And now, you feel that you're attaching their loss of, their ability to walk has become attached to all of the, negative things that obviously come along with that. But being less direct about it and asking, okay, of course, yes, I want them to walk again, but also what you really want is, I want them to feel good. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be happy, and asking for these things from the universe, and trusting that the universe will find a way. And it may not be what you imagine, but find a way for your cousin to feel fulfilled again, feel joy again, feel a reason, a purpose for living again. And it may not be specifically them gaining the physical recovery that you might be seeking. So I think that's an important piece to think about in this situation, or in any situation when you're looking at something like physical healing, because again, although the physical healing might be the thing that created the discomfort, the challenge, the things that you want to get rid of, that's not then now removing that physical challenge is not necessarily the thing that's going to bring you into highest alignment. So yeah, just asking the universe more generally for overall healing, health, well-being, and trusting that the universe will supply in whatever way that it sees fit.
Yeah, I'm going to throw something out very quick to add to that. And that is, they've done studies to actually show that when people are, in a bad accident scenario like this, that after a few years, their sort of happiness meter resets accordingly. So they'll find that years later, they're just as happy and content as they were previous to being in a wheelchair. And it's really interesting because it's all perspective, right? And I remember when my brother, he when he was probably 21 or so, he didn't pay a ticket, and it led to him ended up going to jail, and then he was in jail for multiple days. And he's a very sensitive person, and he came out of that situation. And I remember he got out at like midnight, they released him or whatever, and I picked him up and I made him a Hot Pocket. And to this day, 20 years later, he's like, that was the best meal I ever had. So it's, we truly reset, what it means to be fulfilled and satisfied and happy, from all these different vantage points. And so I think that is something, I'm really glad that you pointed that out, Karen, because that is certainly a path to achieving that which I think you are seeking for your cousin.
Love that so
Yeah.
much. Is it okay if I share just like a story, like a testimony to the ability to physically heal, just because I've seen some real amazing, wonderful miracles happening in my life. And so for anybody wondering, really specific to this question too, just instill some hope too. Is that cool?
Yeah, please do. And I'm going to say here in a moment, Beta, I don't know if you or Karen or anyone can, I'm not sure how it works, if the room can be held in place. I definitely want to hear this. And I have, I'm way over my scheduled time to go actually have some food for the day. I did an hour-long interview before this, so I'm going to have to personally leave here shortly. But I also hate to disrupt this if people want to continue. So maybe Beta, you could just speak to that real quick. If I leave as the one who sets it up, I know you're on as a moderator as well, and Erica and Karen. So I don't know if anyone else would be sticking around, but I just wanted to throw that out quick.
Yeah, absolutely. We can carry it on.
Okay,
then
cool.
I can close the room, or whoever's the last moderator.
All right, cool. Miro, please share.
Beautiful. So I met this woman, Viana Stebal. She wrote the book Theta Healing, and I got really deep into that practice. It's a form of energy healing. And one thing I want to say for anybody here is our belief. I'll give you a really practical example. When I went to high school, I was a street kid in Germany. I, wasn't really believed to be the kind of kid that has a successful career, graduates from even high school, or really does anything in life. And that belief was really stifling me from getting anywhere. And so, only when I kind of met a mentor here and I went to America did I realize I could go to university and I could be successful in life. And so I just want to say belief, our ability to change our life and our reality is always only limited by our belief. And so if you believe that you can heal, then you probably can. If you believe that you can't, then you probably, maybe you can't, maybe you will despite of your beliefs. But so I just want to offer that we have, positive, beliefs and expectations, and we talk about expectations again, positive expectations without the sort of attachment about everyone. To Karen's point, which I think was very eloquently said, And so not being attached to what it's going to look like when this person is better and healthy. And so the one thing that's happened that I learned, a couple of things in my own life, clearly I ended up living, past 18 years old and having a successful life by many people's measures. We're very blessed. And so I met, so Viana's story was that she had, she worked in a nuclear power plant as a mom of 3 kids, and she had a tumor. So she had basically, doctors confirmed there was a cancerous cells in her leg, and her legs swole up to twice their size. And so she went to the hospital and got these messages from God about this method of healing it. And so she started practicing this meditation. And within 2 weeks, her leg returned to normal, the tumor was gone, and the doctors confirmed that she was cancer-free. And she started helping, others are going to ask, came to her and asked questions. And she started, helping others and teaching them this method. And they all had these incredible transformations. Many of them did, not all of them. And one famous sort of story I love sharing is about this little girl who was mute. Her entire life, she was not able to speak. And they, her parents took her to Viana after all the doctors and everything else failed. And so they put an EKG on her head, and she went to this meditation, this theta state. And when she was in this state and this sort of healing happened, she could sort of psychically talk to her. And the girl was telling her that she can actually talk. And she just didn't choose to. And so she did a sort of healing process in that moment, and they could see in the EKG live that something was changing inside of her brain. And she started saying for the first time in her life, I love you to her parents. And she got up and she talked. And so I'm sharing this with everyone here to just know that, whatever you believe, is possible. It's probably way more possible than that. And specifically healing physical ailments. It can be done, and it's been done. And if you want to get more inspiration about that, Theta Healing is the book by Viana Stibal. That's also amazing. And in addition to the Golden Key gift by Brandon. So make sure you get that as well.
I love that. That story is probably, that book is probably more ideal than the Golden Key when it talks about these types of physical healing manifestations, because it's all about the story that you're weaving. Henry Ford said it best: whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And it's truly comes down to, if someone can suspend disbelief long enough and create, as Bashar talks about, he calls it permission slips, right? If you create a permission slip for that healing to take place, right? Oh, here's this thing. I've got a story and this technique and this thing. It's like, oh, okay. And, and placebo, 30% of all healing is placebo. I think when we get to the other side and can peek behind the curtain more thoroughly, we're going to see it was all placebo, because we are that powerful. We are the creator and created rolled into one, and we create. Abracadabra means I create. I create as I speak. Right. Our words are our wands, and we're casting spells. We're spelling with these beliefs.
I just want to talk about this a little bit real quick, and thank you, Brandon, because I know you have to eat, and so that's kind of important sometimes. Although fasting is very good. I also have had a lot of healing things in my life, and they all happened because I got into a consistent state of love, and I wrote about it in my book called Chronic Pleasure, and I will send anybody a free digital copy if you want as well. But one of the things that happened for me is I had a melanoma, and I went to the doctor, and she said, yeah, okay, we'll remove it. And then I was walking in the grocery store, and this other doctor that I knew socially looked at me and said, you have a melanoma. I said, I know. And he said, you got to get it removed. I said, I'm going Tuesday. And this was a Friday. He said, you can't wait that long. Come into my office tomorrow. I'll do it for you. I said, okay. I went home and I meditated. I just meditated on what I see in nature everywhere, which is beauty. And I meditated on beauty because this was on my face. I didn't want to be cut. I didn't want to have cancer, all that stuff. I meditated all day. When I woke up, my skin was clear, and I didn't know what was going on, but I called the doctor. I said, it's gone. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, it's gone. It's not there. It's gone. It's clear. And he was like, did you do that? Did you scrape it? What'd you do? And I said, nothing. And he goes, I don't believe you. Come in anyway. And I said, okay. So I went in, and he he looked at me and he said, Jesus Christ, I've never seen anything like that before in my life. And my skin was completely free, completely healthy. And it had transformed so quickly because I had, without knowing it, I didn't know this at the time, but I had just gone into this state of really recognizing the beauty and really seeing beauty as if it was shining on me like a gentle light on my face. And when I think it was Jorge was talking about being an actor and playing the role, I am an actress. I'm also a coach that helps people release unconscious blocks and all that stuff. But as I've been an actor, I've been over 1,000 hours of television and film. So one of the things that does is it helps you become fluid in who you think you are. And then it helps you become who you want to be without much effort because you've been practicing it by playing a Russian spy or playing a diva or playing a bitch or playing a slut or playing a mom or whatever you play, right? And so you get this practice of being fluid in who you are, and then you can create who you want to be. And so you can create yourself as being wealthy, or you can create yourself as being healthy, and it becomes exhilarating to do it, especially if you bring in that emotional component, which is what you do with acting. With acting, there's a process called sense memory, and you guys can look it up. And it's basically taking each one of the senses, your visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory senses, plus your sixth sense and your emotional sense, sixth sense and your emotional sense. And you imagine that you are in that place of where you want to be with each of those senses. And as you do that, and then you embody it as if it's a new acting role for you, that's your new role. You're going to play this wealthy person, you're going to play this healthy person, whatever it is. And you start going through the world like that, and the world responds to you. And there's something that I call the inner net, not the internet, but the inner net, because we're all connected and people feel what you feel. They feel it through whatever that internet is made of, which I believe is just a web of love, but they feel it. And people will start saying to you what you believe about you. And you can also use this, what we were talking about with the woman whose cousin was injured. If you imagine them, and I do it by imagining their spirit, and by their spirit, I mean that part of them that is wildly abundant, wildly free, incredibly healthy, with this epic, innovative, creative genius within them. And I imagine them dancing, laughing, telling me, oh my God, I can't believe it. My life has changed. I'm so healthy. I'm so happy. I feel so good. Hearing people that they love saying to them, oh my God, look at you. You're doing what you didn't even think you could do. This is incredible. And seeing it from all the different angles, so that you see it from their point of view, your point of view of congratulating them, the point of view of all those people that are the players in their lives, the doctors saying, oh my God, you guys, or oh my God, whatever that cousin's name is, you are a miracle. You are a miracle. We're going to write you up in the books. You are beyond what we could even have imagined is possible. And when you start to do that and you feel it in yourself and you feel that exhilaration in yourself, it's not that you're maybe going to be a really powerful, you're not going to necessarily change everything in them, but what you're doing is you're getting out of the way so that their own spirit and their own power can come forth through them. And I've watched this with my clients, and I've watched it with my family and friends over and over and over again. I imagine them the way they want to be, and things shift so fast. So I just wanted to share that. I know you guys want to go, and thank you so much. This is a really fun conversation.
I love that. I am signing off now, but I had to stick around because Karen, that was so inspiring and awesome. And thank you all for showing up and being here. This has been so epic. And Beta, thank you for continuing to carry the torch while I go eat. And I love you all. I appreciate you so much.
Also, quickly, before we sign off, I wanted to remind you to download the Golden Key, audio or ebook, as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the code POSITIVEHEAD. I also wanted to remind you that I will now be doing a live Q&A every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time on the new social audio app Clubhouse. I have really been wanting to connect and interact with all of you more for quite some time, and I'm super excited to now have 2 new ways to do it. First, if you're already on Clubhouse, be sure to follow me and click the little bell on my profile and select to always be notified when I go live on the Clubhouse app. And if you'd like to connect on an even more intimate Zoom gathering once a month, now you can do that too by registering at goldenkey.gift.